Hello and welcome everybody to our first webinar in 2022. Today we will speak about a very interesting and also very important topic. So WorkPoint 365 and Microsoft Teams better together. I'm very happy that all of you are interested in this webinar and hope you will learn a few things. So my name is Florian Eckerle and I will guide you through this webinar today. Today, the topic will be presented by our very own CPO Dominick Cosgrove. So first of all, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to put them to the Q&As. I promise you I will take care of them. I will have an eye on this, and we prepared a few minutes after the presentation for answering your questions. So I hope Dom is ready. Hello, Dom. Are you ready to show us some great things to make our life easier with the combination of WorkPoint and Microsoft Teams?
Hi, Florian, thanks. Yep, I'm all set. I'm ready to go. I'll share my content.
I will put you first live that everybody can see you, and then we can start with the topic.
Perfect. Thank you, Florian. So, yep, I'm delighted to be presenting WorkPoint 365 and Microsoft Teams better together today. So Florian's done a little bit of an introduction, but I'm Dominick Cosgrove. I'm CPO, Chief Product Officer at WorkPoint. I've been with WorkPoint for a year and a half now, and delighted to be able to share what we're doing from a Microsoft Teams perspective. It's been a journey that we've been on. So I wanted to start with why do we think what is so important to have a Microsoft Teams, and what we bring is so important to the Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Teams ecosphere. So the main why for me is to be able to enable adoption whilst ensuring you have governance within Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams has become the de facto collaboration tool in Microsoft 365. Microsoft 365 has gone through an evolution, and especially now with the pandemic and with remote and hybrid working becoming more and more important, we're seeing definitely a shift between maybe moving from tools like SharePoint natively to people using Microsoft Teams more and more to do the collaboration and to do things that they need to get done during their day. What we're really trying to do is bring the best of WorkPoint into Microsoft Teams. WorkPoint is a very strong product. We've been around for a long time, but what we want to do is make sure that we bring WorkPoint into Teams so that you're not having to do things like what I call context switching. So you can stay within the apps that you want to work in. So some people like working in Outlook, and we have a very strong story around that Outlook. And I suggest that you have a look at some of our previous webinars on our WorkPoint Express. But again, people are now using Teams more and more, and we want to make sure people can stay in Teams and do what they need to do from a WorkPoint perspective in Teams. But we also build a layer on top of Teams to provide that governance and provide that control, and by doing that, also enabling adoption. A lot of organizations during the pandemic and have gone through a quick deployment of Microsoft Teams, and unfortunately, maybe in some circumstances, and certainly what we've seen is they haven't necessarily been truly governed. So they've been kind of a tactical move rather than a strategic move. And then you end up with the Wild West of Teams. So what we call Teams sprawl becomes an issue. And likewise, a lot of organizations are leaving a lot of the good things of Microsoft Teams on the table. So when hybrid work came into place and people were working remotely, the unified comms was probably the key tool or part of Teams that people were really leveraging. So having calls, team meetings, and those sort of things, video conferencing was the key. But there's a lot more to Teams than just unified comms. So what we're hopefully going to demonstrate today is how WorkPoint can enable some of these other features for you. And I've already mentioned about Team Spool, but back in the day, and I've worked with Microsoft 365 or Microsoft SharePoint back in the day, and we see the same problems occurring again and again. So we had SharePoint spool, SharePoint site spools, where they're unmanaged, and a lot of them got created and no one knew what they're for. Likewise with teams, we're seeing team spools where teams are proliferating out in organizations with bad naming conventions, and the purpose not known. And while that's good and it drives the use of the platform, it also gives a lot of complexity and loss of information potentially. So some of the typical challenges that we see out there. So like, how do you control who can create a team, and when a team gets created without putting the barriers up for collaboration? You want the users to be able to do what they need to do their job, but you also want to do it in a controlled fashion. So how can you do that? SharePoint has made it easy to create teams, but it's almost too easy in some ways because there's no control. You can't really control who can create teams and when they get created. Having too many teams is not a good thing in an organization. People find it hard to navigate, people find it hard to find things, and therefore you're devaluing your implementation of teams. How do you ensure right access? Permission management is actually really quite tricky, and what we want to do is simplify that, so the user doesn't have to think about who has access and when they have access, and whether a user should even have access. So we've really simplified and want to simplify how people get access to a team. Team structures. So when you create a team by just using the native Microsoft solutions, yes, they do have some templates. Unfortunately, they don't meet a lot of business needs, but you get a blank team invariably, and that causes issues for users because the users are unable to, they have to go and create all their channels, they have to go and create all their tabs, they have to go and add apps and everything else to their teams. And it would be a lot better to have a structured approach. So if you have a team for a project, or a team for a case, or a team for any other business use, that it has a common structure that will help adoption through people being familiar with the structure and know where to put content and how to use that team. Being able to find teams, the Teams interface is a great Teams interface or application interface, but it does have some of its challenges. And through the demo, hopefully I'll show that by the fact that, if you are a member of a lot of teams, it's actually quite difficult to find the teams that you want to access and get to quickly. So we have a solution around that, and I'll talk about the solutions in a minute. And also a team should have a life cycle. Teams shouldn't exist forever. Typically a team is created for a purpose, whether that's a project where you want a collection of people to come together to work on something. So what do you do with a team at the end of that project? Should it still exist? What should happen to the content? Who should have access to it, etc. And how do you protect the information stored in teams? There's Teams is now becoming more of a way, where you collaborate, but there's a lot of information stored, and that's information not only stored in documents, but what about the Teams chat? That's an asset as well, that's related to that team. And how do you manage and protect that information? It's a bit like email in the day. Emails are an asset. So how do you deal with things like chat? And so overall, we believe WorkPoint plus Teams are better together. So the demo will go through all of this, but what does WorkPoint bring? So as I say, it's about driving adoption through good governance. So we have team templates. So WorkPoint has always had templates. We did a webinar on our templates. So, you want to have that similar structure for every team that you create, whether that's channels, tabs, and also the settings. We have a Teams directory. So being able to go and find those teams that you're a member of, or that are within the organization, or from a PMO perspective, you want that directory of all the teams. And a lot of it is also about adding metadata to teams. Teams only has very limited metadata. It normally has a title and a description. But what about if you want it from a project perspective? And that might be who's the project assistant manager, what's the budget, what's the purpose, what's the region of what's the sector of the project. All of this, through our directory, we can actually decorate the team with a lot more information, which helps to find the teams that you're interested in. When should a team be created as well? So we have actions that control when a team should be created. So you don't always need a team for a project, or you might not need a team when you initiate a project, but you might want to create a team when the project's actually active. So we can control when a team gets created. And again, this is around not creating teams unnecessarily. We also have, and I said about the metadata, about being able to tag teams with additional information, but we can also use that metadata, or those tags, to actually control when something gets created or something done with the team. So that might be when it gets archived, or when when it gets created, or maybe the permissions change from at a different stage within a project. So we can control all of that through WorkPoint. And our WorkPoint app builder, which will be the center of this demonstration, but we have a builder which is basically a no-code way of creating a WorkPoint app for teams. So just in case you're not familiar with WorkPoint, WorkPoint, as this slide suggests, provides governance via an intuitive structure. So we kind of like to structure our solutions. This is an example of a solution where you have a company business module, a contact business module, project business module, and in this case, a transmittal. But a business module is effectively like a concept. It's a unit where you can actually store information. So you might want to store information about a project. So that might be the emails, the documents, the events, notes, those sort of things related to a company or a customer. And then you have something like a project, where a project actually relates to a customer or a company. And within a project, you might also have other assets that you want to store. So I just wanted to show you the kind of the structure that we within WorkPoint provide. So it's a hierarchical modular structure, which gives a hell of a lot of flexibility when you're building your solutions, and hopefully they'll come out today within the demonstrations. But I just wanted to kind of give that little nugget of information before I started the demo, just so it gives a little bit of context. So in the demo today, we literally have a company business module and a project business module. Okay, so I think it's time for demonstration. So let me bring up my browser. So today's demo, I'm going to be using the browser-based version of Microsoft Teams, but everything I do here works in the client and works almost better in the client. It's just because I'm using different users that I'm using the web interface. So the first thing is I'm in Teams, and hopefully everyone's familiar with the Teams layout. You've got things like your chats, you've got your teams that you're a member of, and I've got a long list of teams I'm a member of. There are even some hidden teams because my list is so long. I've got my calendar, I've got my calls. But what you'll also notice here is I've got some additional icons for apps within the app launcher. So here I've got a projects app. What I'm showing you here is something that's been built with our WorkPoint Teams App Studio. Oops, sorry, apologies. I think the browser disappeared from you there. Hopefully it's back. So this is an app. We've called it projects. You can tailor it to be what you need it to be. So that might be a PMO, or it might be a HR app, or a cases app, or it can be anything that you kind of need within the WorkPoint structure. So On my first tab within my app, so as I say, it's no code, and I'll show you building one of these and how simple within 5 minutes you'll have an app up and running. I've got my homepage to my solution. I've got things like my projects. So these are projects that I'm a member of. So I've got a long list of projects. I can do things that you would expect. So I can come in here and maybe I say, well, I just want to have active some of these projects. I want it retail and only United Kingdom. So I can come in here and quickly, through my directory or list of projects, I can kind of come and find the projects that I'm interested in. And I have quick access to those teams through this Teams link functionality we have here. Sorry, apologies. I'm going to stop the slide deck because it seems to be popping up. So again, as I say, there's I'll just remove these filters so we get everything back, but we have a list of our projects and easy access to the teams that are related. But what you'll notice down here is I have a project Zen that doesn't have a team because I haven't created one yet, and I'll go through the creation process. But I may actually want to go and create a project, so from within my WorkPoint app. So you can quickly come in here and simply create project purple, for instance. I want to assign a project manager, and I'll make myself. I'm logged in as a demo administrator, but that could be any user, and I want to give loaner and Chris and Jesper be part of my team. And then the only other bit of information, and this is all configurable to say what information you want to capture about a project. When you create one, you may actually only want to capture literally the project manager and the team when you create it, and then update the information as you're running the project. But I can go and say, okay, well, the company or the customer in this case is Builder. So I can click save there. And while that's running, I can actually come back to my list of projects. And I can see down here that my project purple has been created, and I can see that it's being the site's being created and there's no team. But if I come refresh this, I'll just move between tabs just to refresh. I can now see my site's being created for that project purple. Also, just another example, and as I say, we offer a lot of flexibility about what tabs you can add. I've got a project portfolio tab. So here I have a list of my projects, and I can start drilling down into those. So maybe it's a consulting, it's a production, maybe drift. But you can use the different filters here on the left-hand side to show the projects that you're interested in. So you can bring in search capabilities as well. So this document search, I don't think it's actually working at the moment, apologies, but again, the idea is you can have your standard WorkPoint search capabilities come in and find content within your WorkPoint app. So now we created our new project, we will want to go and maybe teamify it. So we offer many different ways of teamification. So I'll just open up the project site. So here I can see it's project purple. I've got my different stage model. I've got some metadata. I can see the team members that I added on our project information card. But I also can do things like, say when it gets to maybe active, go and create me a team, or when it gets to analysis, create me a team. But I can also do things like when it gets to archived, archive the team as well. So I'll show you the archiving a little bit later, but for the purpose of this demo, I've got a manual creation of a team. So I've added a My Tools button up here to say create team. So this could be where you allow users to create a team. So create team. And I'll just open up our wizard, and it's as quick as that. So what I've set this up to do is actually have an approval process behind it. So if I come out to my activity, if the demigods work with me kindly, I should get a request for approval. You can see that previously I've had additional requests. So here's one I did earlier, but let's see. Oh, here we go. So apologies. It took a little while. So I can approve or reject. So in this case, I'm actually going to reject it because I don't want this team created at this particular time. So that's going to run through a process using Power Automate. So, again, WorkPoint enables tools such as Power Automate within our solutions. So if I come back to my project app, I can go to my projects and I can see down here, I've got my project purple was rejected. So as a consequence, it's not going to get created. But I can come back in here and maybe this time I'm being a little bit kinder to the user. And I can come back. So the user, that is getting notified through Teams, is actioning through Teams. So you can come down to your approvals app, and I can see there's the last one was rejected. I can come back up here, see my activity. I can now this time approve it here, or I could come down here and actually see there's a requested. I can come here and approve that request this time. So it's told me that it's been approved, so I can come back to my projects app, my directory of projects, and I can come down here and now see, it'll take a second, hopefully. Yeah, so my team's now been created. I should also get up here an activity feed saying that I've been added to that project purple team. So go back to my app and my directory of teams. I can now navigate to that team directly from here. So this opens in a new tab in the web interface. In the client, it'll direct you directly to Teams. So to cancel that, open the web app instead. And if I scroll down here, I can now see my project purple. And I can see my teams being created with the just one channel called general. So hopefully by what I've shown you is I can control when teams are created, but I also have a very easy way to find a project. So I'm not looking through the long list. So I could actually come in here and filter. So I can't remember what metadata I put on, or maybe the company is Builder on. Filter, and I just want to show Builder on projects, and I can now quickly get to my project purple team. So another way you can actually find project information is you may not always want to come into this app. You may actually be chatting to someone. So here I can maybe be chatting with Jesper, and he's asked me, can I create a project called Roofing Project for Tronics? So I can come in here and I have my WorkPoint app as well within the message bar. So I can click here. And I've got two options. I can maybe search to see whether I have a roofing project already. So roofing. And I have two roofing projects, but maybe they're not for, and I can click first one and I can actually see, okay, well, that's company Ranto, so that's not the right one. So maybe I need to actually go and create the project as requested by Jesper. So I can do here, create a project, and it opens up our wizard. I'm going to create my roofing project. I'll put Jesper as the project manager, put Anna as one of the team members, and down here I can select company and hopefully Tronics. So the great thing about that is I've now gone and created a project from within the chat interface. I can just close that. So I'll just go back to the start on that, and I can actually close that. And what I can do here is now, or within a minute or so, I can come here and start typing roofing. And what I probably should have called it was something different, roofing project, the proper name, but I can actually go the second one maybe, and get the wrong project, but you get the idea. Is I can actually start searching, and this is all configurable as well through your search interface. So that shows you another way of interacting with teams through a chat. And so I should probably show, I do purple maybe, that might have been, yeah, the one I created earlier. I want to send that to Jesper, and I can just do, if I get rid of that, I can send him. And what he gets is this nice card layout with actual tools. So that's now being sent to him, so he can now go and create a document and maybe change the stage or edit the properties. And this is very configurable, so you can change the layout, the metadata that you want to show, the actions you want to provide, the branding is fully configurable. So the other thing that we discussed as one of the challenges is what happens with a project when it's end of life. So if I come back to my projects directory, I can go and say, okay, projects that go to stage archived are actually archived by WorkPoint. So I go and I set up a rule to say, okay, well, our stage model goes from closed to archive. So I'll take one of these projects, so foundation project here, and I'll just open up. I could do this through many different ways, but I've got a change stage button here, or I can come here. I can do my stage details. I can see that it's actually in the closed stage, and the next one's archived. So before I do that, maybe I should show so this project isn't editable in Teams, but if I go, so apologies, change stage, so change stage here. Sense. That should work, but change it to archived. I might want to put in some additional metadata to say why it's being archived, and I can click save. So that project's now being archived. So if I go back to my projects directory and I find sorted by stage, and I'll just find my archived projects. And this foundation project has now been archived. So now if I open the team, may take a second or two, but you can now see that this team has been archived. So you can't make any changes to that team, and the permissions have been changed. So that's showing archiving. Within the team structure, as I say, we also provide templating. So what I have here is the project purple that I created earlier. Within the template, I actually set up that Microsoft provide a standard general channel, but you can add as many channels as you'd like. But I've also added some tabs here. So, I've added the project homepage, for instance, as a tab. I've also added documents as a tab, so I can see the documents, and I can see my project risk page as well. So you can add the tabs, and you can control what channels you have. In this case, it's a very basic one, and it only has the default general channel, but you can have as many channels as you like that are supported by Microsoft. But the other things that you can do is also go and say, okay, well, manage team. and I have settings. And what I've done is in my template say, okay, well, allow members to create and update channels. And I've deselected that and allow members to add and remove apps because I don't want them to do that. So I've actually disabled that from the admin interface. In this case, I am the owner, so that's why I can go and change those settings, but the members of the team can't make those changes. Which brings me nicely onto the security as well. So as you can see that at the moment, the WorkPoint administrator is the owner, and Jesper, Lona, and Christian or Chris are the members. But I may want to change the permissions. So I can go back again to my projects list, go and find my project purple. And in this case, I might actually want to remove Jesper from the team. And what this will do in the background is actually use our WorkPoint security engine to set the permissions. So Lona and Chris should be the only ones with access. So if I go back to my project purple, and I go and manage team, it'll take a second, but we will see Jesper disappear from this group. So again, we control how the permissions are set up on WorkPoint through metadata. So the users don't have to come in here and add a member and be cognizant of who's got what rights. I can also control what access they have to the different document libraries within WorkPoint and what entities they have access to and what projects they have access to. So in this case, I've got access to a lot of information, but that's because I'm the administrator. Hopefully if I maybe refresh that. Okay, it hasn't kicked in just yet, but oh, there it has. So just checking to make sure that I've covered all the. One thing I hope you noticed that throughout this demo, I haven't actually left the Teams interface. I could have gone into SharePoint, but I can do everything that I've done through the Teams interface. So I've got two apps here. I've also got a cases app just to show you that you can have multiple apps. You can have many apps. So in this case, I've got my cases and I can see different clients and different cases and my tasks and things like that. I can see a list of cases. So all the cases that I have access to, I can similarly to a project, I can go and create a new case, but I can maybe do the search of cases. So maybe it's an insurance case and I get a filter of my insurance cases. And likewise with the document search, I can come in here and do a document search. So again, you can set up your apps to have the same feel to them as you would expect. So users are kind of get used to the apps. So I can come in here and maybe I want to find just documents that were created by. So I can now see there's a couple of documents through our refiner capabilities, our search refining. So I'll just remove these filters. And I got all my documents, but you can obviously do advanced search capabilities as well. So housing and offer. So I can see that it's bringing me back because it's got a case called housing and it's got offer in the title. So again, just showing that you can have multiple apps created, and I'll show you the app creation in a second. So just conscious of time. So if you're familiar with WorkPoint, we have a similar concept to our master sites, which is our site template for SharePoint. We have master teams. So if I come back to my list of teams, there should be a master team somewhere. This may not be the right one, but I can see that I have a master team with a general tab. This is the one actually created for the cases, but I can see that it has a cases home being added. So you have the idea of a master team. So if I added channels to that, it would add those channels to all teams created. And that's not just added to newly created teams, it's also added to teams that are already in existence based off that. So if you wanted to add a channel and you want all projects in your solution to have that new channel, we'll push that out to all the teams. So that's how you manage creating the templates. So I can also come in here in the template, add a new tab, and maybe that's to point to a SharePoint page or to a Excel document or something like that. And I can also come in here and do settings, and I can do manage teams, and I could actually come in here and do settings and actually change the permissions on this team. So that's our templating side of it. From a app perspective, you can install our WorkPoint Builder for Microsoft Teams. I can go and create a new app. All I need is the solution URL, and that's why I have SharePoint open here. I can copy that, and I can come in here. I can enter that. It'll validate it. It says it's valid, and now I can go and add my app details. So I can put a name, a description. I can change the icon for it. So we don't have to use the icons we provide. You can use your own, and then you can add tabs. So I can maybe go and add a list view. I can give it projects. I can select my business module, and I can select my view, and maybe it's the only the latest projects, so I could call this latest. And it's as easy as that to add a tab. You can do things like reordering, so you can move it up and down, you can delete it, you can go and edit it later. And similarly, when I was using kind of the bot functionality, I can add what they call message extensions. So I can go add, and I can do a WorkPoint search, and I can maybe say search for projects. I can say where I want to search, and I can say whether I want it in the command bar, which is up here. This is the command bar where it says search, or the compose bar where you're actually having a chat. Once I'm done, I can set languages on it. So, I can maybe select Danish. I can add my language information. So you download the template, put in the translations, and then import that. And then when I'm ready, I can download that. It's telling me I've got a few errors because I didn't fill out the short name and description, etc. But when it meets the criteria, I can go and download that, and then using the Teams admin interface, I can distribute those. And you might say, okay, well, this project app should only be to this audience or these users within your tenant. So I won't create that, but I'll just have a look at an existing one, and very quickly. This is the one I showed earlier, where you've got the different search and the create. So that's a WorkPoint wizard, and you've got search capabilities, and you've got the business module, and you can have custom URLs as well to point directly to pages within your solution. So hopefully I've shown that it's really, really easy to go and create a WorkPoint app for Microsoft Teams, and you can do that within minutes. I just wanted to show you as well, earlier I showed the triggering of, or the creation of a team through our action management. So those are a little bit more technical from our project. This is the WorkPoint administration. So from WorkPoint administration, I can come down to action management. And what I did here was I created a manual trigger. So that was my tools, and I have an approval process. So that executes this action, which is this creation project, which is our notify webhooks. And what that does is calls a Power Automate flow. So here I've got my Power Automate flow. I can come in here and edit it. And I can see that I go and get the item. So this triggers when the WorkPoint event occurs. So in that case, it's the clicking of the button. It goes and gets some information about the item. It does an approval. And then I have some conditions down here. So if it's approved, go and update the item and set it to approved. If not, put it as rejected. And what that's doing is behind the scenes in our action management is when the entity is updated, it goes and creates an Office 365 group. But what I can do here, which is unique to WorkPoint, is I can actually put some conditions on. So I say, well, run this action only when the approved status is approved. So no matter how many times you run that action, unless it's approved, it won't create the team. And the final thing I wanted to show was, obviously, when I created the team, it added the team owner and it also added the team members. And when I removed Jesper from the team group, it removed their permissions from teams as well. So likewise, if I come down here, I can look at my security settings. And what I have is this security rules where I've always said, well, the WorkPoint administrator is always added to the owner, irrespective. The project manager is added to the owners and the project teams are given membership access. And our security engine handles all the complexity of the security. The users don't need to think about it. All they need to do is as simple as what I showed, is add and remove a user from a field within SharePoint. Perfect. I think just based on the fact that we're out of time, Florian, I will quickly go back to my slides and round up the session.
Yes, that's perfect. And we have some questions afterwards, so you have to be prepared, Dom.
Brilliant. So just really close out the session. So we do have a roadmap. Some of this is actually developed and it will be available in our new version of our platform. Things like our Save to Chat. We have a new process management, which will replace or provide a lot more functionality than our current action management. So that's in development and will be released fairly soon. We're also introducing more intelligent bots and deeper integrations with WorkPoint throughout the solution. The next steps is go and have a look at our documentation, get in contact with us, and if you're interested in WorkPoint, we can tailor a demo or show you more functionality. It's very important that you understand the pains within your organization. We also recommend that you start small. Don't always go for the big bang with Microsoft Teams. Build out your whole strategy, your whole roadmap for Teams, and don't try and deploy Microsoft Teams without due consideration. Stay up to date with our new capabilities through our newsletters, sign up. Again, please go to our website and sign up for more information. And also, we're continuously looking to improve our product. So please provide us feedback. So Florian, with that, if we do have some questions.
I will first start to give the people a little bit more time. I will start something on our own. So first of all, I want to say thank you very much, Dom, for a brilliant presentation. And also I want to say once again that you never left really the Microsoft Teams interface. And I think that's the main point and very interesting. Thank you very much, Dom. To give the people a little bit more time, I just want to say something about, also other channels which we have. So if you were really interested and want to get more information, I highly recommend the YouTube channel, WorkPoint 365 Explore. So there you can find also very interesting interviews, also tips and tricks. We have also a Microsoft Teams interview with Dom on the YouTube channel. So go on the channel. If you like it, please subscribe and also like our videos. This would be very nice. If you're interested in further more webinars, we have also on the 2nd of February another interesting webinar with Dom again. Dom, you have so much things to do, right? So we will speak about bridging the gaps in SharePoint with WorkPoint. So now we go to the questions, I think. So Dom, I sent you 3 questions over Microsoft Teams, of course, or in Microsoft Teams. So it's easier maybe to read it and then answer it. But the first I have to answer, because one question was if we can share the recording after the event, like I put it in the QA. We will definitely share the video after the webinar. So we will send out an email and then have definitely share the content, and you can watch the webinar once again or twice again like you want. So now, Dom, I think it's important. Maybe you can read the question and then answer it, that everybody knows what we are talking about.
Perfect. Yep. So the first question is, the employee added under team, will that become a team member of the team? And if you add members to the team, will they have access to the WorkPoint data and that is synced? Totally. And hopefully I showed the fact that I added Jesper, remove Jesper, and likewise, if I added people to that team, they automatically become members of that team. Likewise, with the WorkPoint security rules, you can set it up to make sure that they have access to the site and whatever information within that WorkPoint site and that data structure you have, they have access. So 100% that will be kept synchronized and up to date, and will provide access to the WorkPoint data. So do you have both the connected SharePoint team sites and another SharePoint site for the WorkPoint project data? It's the WorkPoint team site. It's not a separate site, so it's all within. So your documents are stored in the default document library. So if I came into this Project Purple and I looked at I'll open it actually up in here, just to kind of show you within SharePoint. If I go to Project Purple, this is your default, and you'll get a general channel, and then you can have additional channels or folders or document libraries as you require. So hopefully that answers that question. I didn't get how you, so the third question, I didn't get how you created teams after creating a project or case in WorkPoint. Did you use the Power Automate platform for that part? So what I did in this case was I had a manual trigger. So if I just go back to my project directory very quickly, very conscious of time. So if I go to projects, I'll find quickly a project that doesn't have, so this roofing project doesn't have teams. What I did was I used a WorkPoint trigger, in this case, create team, which is a manual trigger, but I could have triggered that off our stage model or any of the metadata. And what that did was it kicked off a Power Automate to do the approval process, but the actual team creation is actually done within WorkPoint. So we have an action within our action management. I come quickly here, and under action management, I have a action called connect to Office 365 group. This was an action that we had before Microsoft Teams, but this action actually creates the team. So if I go here, I got the group alias, which will be the project ID and the display name, etc. So I've got a lot of configuration, but it's actually WorkPoint that's actually creating the team. So you don't have to go, you can do it through Power Automate, but there's quite a number of steps that you'd have to go through, whereas we just have the action and it's very easy to configure. So I think those were the 3 questions, Florian. Hopefully I answered them sufficiently for people that ask them. And
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yes. So I will go send me live that we come to the end. It's quite a long time as well. So thank you very much once again, Dom. It was a pleasure with you again to have a webinar. I hope everything went fine for you. If you have any more information, you know that you can visit our homepage and contact us directly if you have questions or needs, or also updates for us how we can progress with the product. So thank you very much. I hope everything is fine, and see you the next time when we have the webinar. Have a nice day. Bye.